Hey, I'm Delphine, and I will suck your cock if you click the link in the description, because today I'm releasing a new album. What am I doing with my life? So if you're tired of listening to the same shit again and again, and you're pissed off because nobody's releasing anything good, give it a listen. You can give me a follow, because I've got some real heat coming up in the next few months. And with that out of the way, let's look at today's video. So today, it's not gonna be a sound design video, because I'm gonna talk about how I go about making a D&B drop. So I'm just gonna play you the project that I'm working on right now. Alright, so this is what I have so far. So when I'm starting a new project, I like to have some idea first. You should choose like a theme or find a cool sample, or I don't know. Do you want the track to be aggressive? Do you want it to be, I don't know, soft, melodic? It's up to you, but you should have an initial idea of what you want to do. You can draw inspiration from movies or other songs or games or anything, but you should have some idea of what you want to do. So in this case, I've watched the Cyberpunk on Netflix, and I absolutely love the soundtrack. I've also played the game. It's a great fucking game, no matter what you say. It was kind of broken when it came out, but now it's fixed and you should try it. It's fucking awesome. So first, I like to start with an intro. I usually just lay out a simple melody, and it gets my brain into the mood of the track, and then I'm able to make a better drop. A lot of people like to start with a drop, because they make the drop, and if they like it, they will continue working on the project. And if they don't, they just scrap it and move on. Because if you make a cool intro and the drop sucks, you've lost more time. So I just opened Pigments and I looked for a preset that would fit with the theme of Cyberpunk. So I found this preset, sounds like this. It just lays the foundation. It's like eerie, dark, and futuristic. Next, I make this ARP. Then I wanted to add like the cyberpunky bass in the intro, which sounds like this. I didn't know exactly what I wanted this sound to sound like, so I just looked on YouTube and I looked for some cool cyberpunk presets. So I just copied the tutorial. Then I've also added some more sounds, some atmosphere, some sweeps. So this is what I had. And that would be it for now. I didn't want to work on the intro too much because I didn't have the drop yet. Obviously, I forgot to mention, you should already know what scale you're in. Alright, so now let's look at the drop. So when I open up Ableton, I already have a template ready, which has some basic drum and bass drums. The snare is fucking trash. I'm gonna change it later, but it's good for now. The drums are like bones in your musical body. So you should always start with the drums. So then, obviously, you need to make the first bass. So this is what I came up with. I wanted the basses to fit together with the intro, so I actually took this bass preset and I just modified it to sound like this. Then you just keep making more basses. Now that I'm able to do this, I like to design all the basses as I go, but there's nothing wrong with using presets. I've also used some presets that I made earlier in here. So then I made this second bass. It's very clean. It's just very basic wavetables. And when I made this, I already felt super inspired, because this is like when you just play these two sounds together, it just sounds super cool. As soon as I made this, I already knew that this would be a great fit in the build-up. So I just copied it here and made a second instance with a lot of reverb on it. And low pass filtering. Now this just sounds fucking cool. So now you just gotta imagine the melody of the drop. So what I like to do is just make an instance of Serum with a simple saw wave and just write the melody. And this is very important because a lot of times it happened to me that I just made the drop and I didn't write this melody, and then at the end I was like, there's something wrong with the melody. Like the notes didn't really make sense. It was all in scale, but the bass is the most important part of the track, and you should always like have a melody that actually makes sense. I like to do a little more complicated melodies than other people. A lot of the times people in drum and bass, they just repeat the same note over and over, and that just sounds fucking boring to me, so I don't like to do that. So this is like a reference track of the melody that I can always come back into, and when I'm making pitch drops of the basses and, you know, when I'm writing the other basses, I can always just look at this melody and copy the notes that are here. You don't have to be like 100% exact. You can deviate from these notes a little, because when you're making like fast pitch bend stuff, like the pitch doesn't really have to be 100%. It's more about the energy of the bass. But if you really want to make it perfect, you should make all the pitches fit. Like I can hear when the pitch is not exactly right, and I like to play with it so it's just right. So I made this melody. So then I was like, what should I do next? So then I added this. It's like a filler bass with some delay on it, and I really love this part of the track. And I already knew that I wanted to make something fast in here, and then the longer end to like carry in the next section of the drop. So I like to make the longer basses first, which have like a longer sustained pitch, because honestly they are easier to do, and the whole drop, it's like fitting puzzle pieces together, and the more puzzle pieces you've already put there, the easier it is to fill the rest. Next, I had this bass. So then I had this. Alright, so now you have this section. And usually in drum and bass, you can divide the drop in like 4 sections. And now, how to think about the variation in the drop. So you obviously want the drop to change, because when it doesn't change, it's fucking boring. You basically have like, I'd say you have like 3 options. And this really depends on the melody. So if the melody is easier or like not that complicated, and there's a lot of like repeating of the same note, you can get away with the first 3 parts being mostly the same, and then just the last part being different. So you can just make this one, copy it, and then make the end and make like a cool transition to the next drop. And the next option you have is to make this part and this part the same, and then this part and this part similar, but make some variations. And the third option would be, if you want to get creative and just do some crazy shit, you can do whatever the fuck you want. But mostly you can get away with these 2 options. Here I chose the second one. So I have this section. And this section. And because I like to do more variations, because I don't know, I just get bored very easily, I just changed the notes of this last bass. You've probably heard this term before, call and respond. So you have this first bass, which would be the call bass, and this would be the response bass. The same thing here. This would be the call bass, and this would be the response bass. I would also consider this one a response bass. So these are like the main basses in the drop, and the rest is just filler basses. All right, so now you like have the idea of what the drop will sound like. And I already knew that I wanted to make some quick filler basses in this empty section, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I just wrote a melody, and I just browsed through my presets until I found something that I liked, and this is what I came up with. So in these shorter basses, the rhythm is the most important thing. So this is what I had first, and I was like, this is too basic. So I wanted the middle note to change. So I just grabbed part of this sound from earlier and just pasted it here. Sounds all right. And then I didn't really know what to do next. So I just copied this here and I changed it a little. I just chopped some of these notes to make them a little shorter because I don't want the sound to be exactly the same. So this is what I had. Pretty cool. And then I just made this shorter filler bass, which has a lot of pitch bending. And that's basically the whole thing. So you can see this section, very similar to this section. The only thing that differs is this last part. I just changed the notes. And the same thing is with this section and this section. They are also very similar. The only thing that changes is this, but together every single part is different, so it doesn't really get you bored. And once you have everything laid out, you should leave it rest for like a day or two, and then come back to it with fresh ears and change the sound design, because it didn't really sound it exactly like I wanted to. I'm still probably gonna do some changes. And you just change the sound design to be even prettier. You should match all the levels of the basses, look at the frequencies. Because when you work with like lots of sounds in the drop, it's quite difficult to make them fit in the mix. Because some of the basses will lack low end, some of the basses will lack high end, some of the basses will be too wide. And you have to deal with all those things and just make automations, make EQs, and make them all feel right. And once I'm done with the basses mostly, what I would do then is to just make the drums complement the basses. I can make another video on just how to construct the right drum loop. And once you have the drums, you can add some effects, you can add some ear candy, but that's not necessary. If the basses are really good by themselves, you don't really have to add that much. You can easily overdo it, and the more you add in the drop, the harder it is to mix down. And humans can only focus on like 4 sounds at the same time. So if you add more, for nerds like me, it can be benefiting, but for 99% of the population, they won't even notice that it's there. So if you want to fill out the space, if it feels empty, you can just resample everything, pitch it up, make a lot of reverb, make some automation. You can basically make like an atmosphere or like a pad behind all of the basses that is made from the basses itself, so it just fits together nicely. And yeah, that's pretty much all I would do. You can add some glitches and short effects to like accentuate the basses, but that's not necessary. And this video took me way too fucking long to record. Alright, and that's it for today. I hope this footage is usable because I've recorded this for like more than half an hour. Please like and subscribe. Don't forget to check out my new release. And that's it for today. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.